Hi, I'm Rick Barron, your host, and welcome to That's Life, I Swear. On May 21st of 2022, Tom Turcich from New Jersey became the 10th person on record to walk around the world. So he's the 10th person to achieve this accomplishment. So what? Well, the so what part is he wasn't alone. His companion, shall we say, was quite different. You see, he took his four-legged companion, his dog, Savannah, with him. Let's jump into this. At the beginning of 2022, I began a regimen to get serious about getting myself back in shape. Used to be a jogger, and things just kind of faded away and just kind of lost interest. But now I started to get back into it. So I started walking and jogging, along with weightlifting. Right now I'm averaging anywhere between 2 to 3 miles a day. Now, I had no lofty goals of setting world records, but then I came across someone with that thought in mind. His name? Tom Turcich. One day he decided to take walking to a whole new level, and that level was to walk around the world. I'll talk about taking a stroll around the block. As I called out early at the beginning of this podcast, Tom completed that walk around the world in May of 2022. While he was the 10th person to have achieved such a remarkable feat, he wasn't alone, as I said. He had a companion, a four-legged companion, his dog, Savannah. So, Savannah couldn't claim she was the 10th person to complete the trek around the world, but gosh darn it, she can say she's the first dog to ever do so. Now, how many dogs do you know can lay claim to that fact? Now, as Tom planned his trip, he estimated maybe, 5 years tops is what it would take to finish. The trip actually took him 7 years. Now, how many miles did he travel? For my friends who like to use the metric system, it was 48,000 kilometers. And those who don't, it was 29,826 miles. Now, what does 29,826 miles look like? Well, think about this. Think about walking from San Francisco to New York City 10 times, back and forth. Another way to see this is walking back and forth from Paris, France to Shanghai, China 5.5 times. Are you huffing and puffing yet? So what was the seed of inspiration that gave Tom the idea he wanted to take on this Forrest Gump goal? Now, very quickly, for those who have never seen the movie Forrest Gump, please do so. It's a great movie. Now, there's a scene in the movie where Forrest Gump, played by Tom Hanks, decided he needed travel and adventure in his life and began looking into all the different ways he could do that. Okay, I digress. Back to the other Tom. Now, what prompted Tom to walk around the world generated from losing a dear friend in 2006. Sadly, his longtime friend, Anne-Marie, died in a jet ski accident at the very young age of 16. He was 17. When Tom thought of Anne-Marie and the abrupt ending to her life at such a young age, it was a realization that one's life can be erased very quickly. One doesn't know when their ticket is going to be punched. He thought about how life is a gift, and with what time one has, he started a self-evaluation of where he was in his life and what he wanted to accomplish. And then it came to him. He would walk around the world. He loved adventure. And what better way to achieve his dream? Tom quickly started doing his research on those who have accomplished the similar feat that he was about to take on. He read about Steve Newman, who Guinness Book World Records lists as the first person to walk around the world, and Carl Bushby, a British ex-paratrooper, walking adventurer and author, who is currently attempting to be the first person to walk an unbroken path around the world completely. These guys are unbelievable. While doing his research, Tom learned the requirements to set a walk around the world and found that the Guinness World Records sets the rules for a circumnavigation on foot as traveling 18,000 miles or 30,000 kilometers and crossing 4 continents, a goal surpassed by Turcich by doing 48,000 kilometers. But we'll get into that later. To get ready, Tom did anywhere from 2-3 day hikes to prepare for his long journey. As for his experience taking very long hikes, he once did a 10-day hike along with occasional weekend hikes. In short, Tom was a rookie, but he was about to become an expert very quickly. Tom started to raise funds to cover the costs of the trip. He knew making a trip around the world was going to cost him dollars. While attending college, Tom worked during the summer to raise money. As part of cutting corners, he also moved back with his parents after graduation. All in all, Tom mustered up enough funds to cover about 2 years for the trip. It didn't take long for word to get around about Tom's pending goal. Much to his astonishment, the owner of a local company, Philadelphia Sign, learned about his plans and told Tom he would love to sponsor his trip. After much planning, raising funds, and trying to figure out his trip, it was about 9 years before Tom was ready to go and introduce himself to the world. Over the time of preparation, he figured it would take about 5 to 6 years to complete this monumental journey. When the day arrived, which was April 2nd, 2015, Tom, now 26 years of age, had a cup of coffee, grabbed his gear, and walked out the front door. He left New Jersey to begin his long adventure, not knowing what to expect. Would he finish? Would the trip be a great adventure as he hoped, or just an utter nightmare? Who knew? Tom just threw caution into the wind, and he was on his way. His gear consisted of hiking equipment, a sleeping bag, a laptop, a camera, and a plastic crate which he used to store his food and a 3-wheel baby stroller. As Tom was walking, he remembered he had 2 goals in mind for the trip. He wanted to cover every continent and avoid any and all bureaucratic trouble. All said, the trip would take over about 7 years, but to be fair, Tom experienced 2 unforeseen delays. The first was when he caught a bacterial infection requiring several months of rehab, and then the big one, the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during the first stage of Tom's walk, he covered ground from New Jersey to Panama. Now, while walking around the world, Tom spent many a night, about 4 months, camping and sleeping on his own. He thought about missing his friends and experiencing loneliness, thinking of the many miles still yet to go. Tom thought about having a dog would help him sleep better and be an alarm system if something was amiss. While in Austin, Texas, Tom adopted Savannah at a dog rescue center. Now, what started as a necessity soon turned into respect and a deep love for Savannah. Soon after Tom and Savannah reached Panama, they boarded a plane that took them over Darien Gap, a tough stretch of jungle that spans Panama and Colombia. Now, fortunately, Tom and the dog took the intelligent move and flew over that area rather than walk it, as the area is not kind. The second year of Tom and Savannah's journey covered a lot of ground. They crossed from Bogota, Colombia, Uruguay during that time. Then, as if that wasn't enough, Tom and Savannah then jumped onto a boat and headed to Antarctica. After a stroll around the South Pole, if you can call it that, Tom needed to return home to get the required paperwork for his next stop, Europe. Once Tom and Savannah were in Europe, they started hiking over Ireland and Scotland. As is with life, all plans are subject to alteration. And while in Scotland, Tom took ill. It was at this point in the journey he felt entirely spent. He returned to the United States to rest his body, along with Savannah. Now, it was during this time that Tom wondered if he could actually complete this journey. He admitted that he came very close to throwing in the towel. There were moments when he asked, what was he thinking that he could actually walk around the world? The more he thought, the more he got disappointed and upset with himself. No, I will not quit. I will finish what I started. Besides, Tom had been planning this trip for almost 8 years. No, sir, we're moving ahead. After a good rest and being mentally ready, Tom and Savannah were back at it and resumed their walk starting in Copenhagen in May of 2018. During his trip, Tom wanted to make sure he documented his long journey. He did so on Instagram and his blog called The World Walk. So check it out on my website, where you can find it on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. And you'll find both sites have great information about his trip and lots of photos of Savannah. After Copenhagen, he was on to Germany. While Tom was regaining his confidence to complete his walk around the world, the catalyst that really got him going was the walk through what is known as Camino de Santiago. The route covers areas that took Tom and Savannah through Spain, France, and Portugal. That part of the walk rejuvenated Tom. From Europe, he and Savannah headed over to North Africa, where they crossed to Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. They then moved through Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Albania, Greece, and Turkey. Gosh, I'm just getting exhausted reading all these countries. About halfway through his journey, they traveled to Georgia, a country between Russia and Turkey, and the Caucasus Mountains, and on to Azerbaijan. I think I got that right. Now, talk about being located in the wrong place at the wrong time for Tom and Savannah. No sooner did they arrive in Azerbaijan that the COVID pandemic hit. Tom was forced to remain in the country for the next 6 months. Unfortunately, he had no vote in this decision. Unfortunately, the strict COVID travel restrictions meant Tom had to abandon plans to visit Australia and Mongolia. What must have felt like forever, Tom was finally able to leave the country and complete walking around Kyrgyzstan, a small country in Central Asia that borders China. From there, he and Savannah flew to Seattle in August of 2021 and began making their way home to New Jersey. Home. What a beautiful word. Tom couldn't stop saying that word to himself over and over. Once Tom was back in the United States, he kicked it into high gear. Of all the places he passed through during his journey, Tom found that Wyoming, the least populated U.S. state, was the most difficult. There's nothing out there, he says, recalling how he and Savannah covered an entire weekend walking without seeing so much as a store or even a person. But eventually, they did come across a gas station. During the entire trip, Tom was impressed with Savannah's energy. There was no quitting this girl. There were moments when his tired body would just collapse after they traveled a lot of miles. As for Savannah, she'd want to come over with a stick and want to play. Knowing Tom was almost done with his long journey, he pushed hard to walk as many miles as possible during the day. On average, he and Savannah would walk between 18 to 24 miles a day. I mean, that's really stepping it up. 7 years was long, and he couldn't wait to get back home. Tom wanted to hang out with his friends and family again, and not pack up his tent every night. So what's the takeaway here? What can we learn about Tom and his dog, Savannah? When all was said and done, Tom and Savannah walked across 6 continents and 38 countries together, spending most nights camping. Take out a map and look at the various places I called out, and you'll get an idea of just how much ground these two covered. Not too many people, even a dog, can lay claim to that accomplishment. Tom and Savannah arrived in Hampton Township, New Jersey, where they received a huge homecoming celebration, attended by many of Tom's friends, family, and Anne-Marie's parents. I'm sure when they crossed the finish line, Anne-Marie was looking down on Tom and Savannah with a warm smile. Tom demonstrated what one could do once you set your mind to it. So many of us think of wanting to do things that test us and think way outside the box, but we're afraid to take that first step. Well, not for Tom. He took that first step and more. The trip's catalyst was his friend's passing, which shook him up. He saw that life is very precious and that every day is a gift. He tested his resolve that the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. Unfortunately, we only get one ticket to ride the horse on the carousel we call life. For now, Tom is now focused on writing a memory about his voyage, while Savannah is adjusting to being in one place all the time and taking long naps. Guess you can say she's earned it. Well, there you go. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website that you can find on either Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts for show notes calling out key pieces of content mentioned and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. See you soon.